All right, so let's talk about creating a proper menu with React. The input of this workshop is essentially the output from the previous one. So let me clear a few things. If you didn't catch up with the previous workshop, please have a look. It's on YouTube already about using hooks with React. Yeah? So far, the only thing we got is a very simplistic menu written with React using hooks. You see, not a menu, just a basic button. Yeah, a button that toggles on and off a given piece of text. So that's pretty much our starting point. So I would like to play a bit with CSS, probably with React as well. I mean, to be completely honest with you, I'm not going to do anything new. So essentially here I'm going just to follow a bunch of guidelines and patterns that we've already covered in previous workshops. Yeah? That's why I'm not going to be particularly slow in this workshop because you know all these things, or you should know all these things already. So the first thing I would like to do is let me create a new folder called menu. So thinking about best practices, let's have menu.javascript, and then I'm going to move my menu component into my menu file, export default menu. So now obviously I have to import it. Import menu from wherever the location of the menu is, menu folder / menu, I believe, right? Also, let's remember to import React and the useState hook because we need it to toggle the menu. We don't need useState here on the app.javascript anymore because, we are not using it. So now the only component using the hook is the menu one. So for simplicity reasons, let's remove it and let's see if it still works. Yeah. Remember, guys, after every change, just double check everything works as expected. If you spend 20 minutes changing stuff, nothing is gonna work afterwards. And then why nothing works? Is it because something you changed on the first minute, on the fourth minute, on the seventh minute? You don't know. Yeah, that's why it's important to do baby steps. You change something, you check on the web browser. If everything works as expected, then fantastic, you move on to the next step. But if it doesn't work, at least it doesn't work because of the change, because of your immediate change, let's say. Yeah. All right, so everything works as expected. Now, in reality, I don't want to display whether the menu has been open or not. I want to display an actual menu. So let's create, we may refactor a few things later on, but let's create a list of elements, imagine that we're creating a list of menu items. I'm not going to play with the links, so this workshop has nothing to do with routing, but I hope you get the point, right? So imagine we got some menu elements like the home, thinking about your portfolio, about projects and contact, for instance. Yeah. So if I go back to the web browser, I got my menu here, but at the moment the menu is statically visible. Yeah, I don't want that. Imagine that we are doing mobile first development. So here is my my mobile phone. I don't want to display the menu by default. I want to hide it, and then just when I click on the menu button, then I would like to show it somewhere. Yeah. So to do that, well, first of all, the first thing we could do is play with the is open flag, right? If it's open, and please guys pay attention to the syntax here. Boolean algebra, as you already know. So can anybody tell me what false and false returns? That's correct, false. And what about true and false? Correct. And what about true and hello? That's correct. True and hello returns hello because this is truthy, so then the last element will be returned. So that's the same principle. If its open is truthy, then it will return the next bit. That's a very elegant way of dealing with on and off status, because what false and menu will return? That's correct, false. If its open is false, that won't be returned at all. So that's a very, 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 very elegant way of creating some sort of if-else. Yeah? If its open is truthy, then display the menu. If its open is falsy, then nothing will be displayed menu-wise. So let's try again, see if it works. I just got the menu button, but the items are not there. And you see, that works as expected. I can toggle the menu on and off. Any questions? Yep. Yeah, of course. Yeah, correct. You can have a ternary. If it's open, then, but if you got a ternary means you got 3 elements. What do you do otherwise? The thing is, a ternary makes sense when you want to display A or B. You see? A or B. That makes sense. But regarding the menu, it's not A or B. It's A or nothing. That's correct. You could even, you could even display an empty tag, an empty div, or something like that. So I'm sure you could. Wait a minute, is that wrong? I think that's correct. Not sure why this is wrong. Let me refresh. Sorry guys, my laptop, as usual, is very slow when streaming. But if I refresh, you see, so you can hack it. So there is actually, it's not like there is nothing. There is actually something. There is an empty div, but visually speaking, it looks like nothing. But that doesn't feel very elegant to me. Even though that's correct, from a user point of view, that's fully correct. I believe it's just easier to use the AND operator to decide whether you want to display that or not. Anything else, guys? You want another example? Well, yeah, I can simplify that if you want. I think that's the most obvious example I can think about, Adam. So imagine that I want to display, when you got a database with users and you got the first name and the user of the user, but you got a button to say show details of the user. So imagine that I got here Adam, and then I got a button saying show details. So then I can display some details, age, whatever, email, whatever. Yeah, so I'm not sure if you get my point. So now, if I got a list of users, I got Adam. I imagine I got Adam, Minji, Panos, Ian, Ebrima, Dan, whatever. I got a list of users, just the name. But if I'm interested in showing the details of any of them, I got a button, and I can display the details of that particular user. Yeah, that's the reason why you can use the AND operator. Once again, yes, you can use the ternary, but then tell me, what's the default? What do I display here? Details hidden? I don't know. That feels a bit weird, right? You can do that if you want. Technically speaking, so if so do you want to do if is open? No, that's not going to work, I believe. You cannot use, guys, you cannot use an if statement in React, in HTML. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. Because when you type curly braces, you have to return something immediately. So if you type if actually returns nothing. You cannot do that. That goes against the JavaScript syntax. Yeah, I know that's a bit confusing, but no, you cannot use an if statement. You can either use a ternary, because a ternary is immediately returned. That's fine. Or you can use the Boolean algebra and or whatever. So you just need to get used to the syntax. Anything else, guys? All right, so now let's talk a bit about CSS. So I don't want the menu to be displayed, here in the middle of the screen, because don't forget something, guys. You may have on your main component, hello, my name is Peter. I'm a software developer, whatever. Yeah, you got your portfolio. So when you render the portfolio, you get your details, that's some sort of okay. Obviously, it would be nice to have an icon for the menu, whatever, but that's some sort of okay. However, when I expand the menu, what the hell? Why my content is moving? Yeah, so the menu should be in position absolute on top of my content. Yeah, I don't want to move my content around. So let's play a bit with CSS. Because I will need several iterations. Yeah, I don't have a clear picture about how do I want to build my CSS. I will spend a couple of minutes prototyping it on DevTools directly. Yeah, so here is my menu. Fantastic. So let's present some CSS. So first of all, that should be on position absolute. And but also I want to display top 0 and right 0, something like that. All right, so now it got removed by React, but yeah, I think that's pretty much what I want. So let me add class name menu. Actually, let me create a new component for that. You can see I don't have any clear plan, because I believe that's the way you actually code. You have an idea, but you may change your mind. So let me create a new function. I will move it somewhere else in a minute. Function menu items. As you can see, my coding styles, I'm trying to keep my components, the smaller the better, because that will simplify the process of dealing with them in the long term. You see? And actually, because now this is so short, the expression is easier to read, I can move it to one line. I can do something like that. So first of all, let's see if it still works. So if I refresh, let's have a look. Yep, still works. The CSS is wrong, but that still works. So now let's move menu items to a new file. I got the menu. So let me create a new folder called menu items, and menu items will have, unsurprisingly, a new menu items.javascript file. We'll probably need the CSS in a minute, but for now, let's move my menu items component to a new file. You see how simplistic my files are. That's clearly the way you should orchestrate your components. So I got my menu items. Let me import it before I forget, right? So import menu items from menu items slash menu, what is it? Menu items, something like that. So that should work without any styling, but let me, I think, did I break it? No, here you go. Oh, I break it. All right, that's a good thing. I don't know why I broke it, right? So I think to import menu items does not contain a default export. Oh, can you see, guys, can anyone tell me what the problem is? I'll show you in a second. It's not exported, that's correct, guys. I forgot to do the export default, right? So export default menu items. So now, hopefully, when it refreshes, yeah, it works fine. It works fine. Fantastic. Is there any questions so far? No? You can see at the end, the trick, guys, is creating as many small components as possible to isolate them. So I got my app that renders menu renders menu items. So now let's talk a bit about CSS. menu items.css. So let me add a default class name equal. Can you tell me, guys, an appropriate class name for the menu items component? Fantastic, menu items. So now on my CSS, we can do things like position absolute, top 0, right 0. What else? Maybe some background color if you want. Background color yellow. Top 0. Oh, I forgot the column. Top 0, right 0. Background color yellow. I don't know. Maybe some padding. I don't know. Some basic styling. Yeah. Will that work? Will these styles be applied? That's correct, Ian. That's correct, Ian. Remember, guys, to import the corresponding CSS from the JavaScript file. All right, so let's see what we got at the moment. So at the moment, if I refresh the page, not bad. Yeah, you see, I got the menu showing on the right corner. Let's try to expand the menu until the end of the page. Not sure if that's a good idea from a UX or not, but let me play with the height 100%. Here you go. And of course, guys, if that's your actual mobile phone, I'm sure most of you will struggle to select the right option, because obviously I'm zooming my smartphone, but you see these links are very close to each other, so we should have some gap separating them. So let's play around that idea. So first of all, height 100%. And now let me add a class name on each item. On each item, yeah, if you want, item. So now remember to namespace, guys, your CSS. So menu items.item. Yeah, you remember, guys, we did that to avoid affecting or infecting any other CSS somewhere else created by somebody else. Yeah. So now only the item classes that are part of the menu items component will be affected by these changes. So for instance, padding 10 pixels. Yeah, something like that. So let's see if it works. You see, slightly better. You see, now there is some space between my links. Yeah, it works as expected. Any questions so far, guys? No? Cool, great. So now let's talk about visuals. Even though that works fine, do you remember yesterday we ran a workshop about transitions and animations? Can we apply a transition? Can we smoothly present the menu from the right hand side with an animation or with a transition when I click on the button? What do you think? Yeah, okay. But how do we do that? That's the question. Okay, fantastic. So tell me, how and where do I apply the transition? Ian? Yes? Yes, they can, Adam. They can, of course. What do you mean finish? Where do I type that? Yeah. You see, that's good, guys, because I wanted to present you that this problem is not that simple to solve. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. Yeah. So you have a question, Panos? Okay, okay, yeah. But where? How? On the button. So you want to add a class here in the button? Yeah. So that's absolutely correct. So Panos is pointing to the right direction. What we need to do, and so the first thing Adam said, that makes sense. So first of all, let's even though that may not be perfect, 100 pixels, but just as an example, minus 100 pixels. So in theory, the menu should be hidden on the right hand side. So what we need to do is something like that, guys. Menu items dot is visible, right? What? 100 pixels like that? Are you sure? If I want to stick the menu to the right hand side, that's correct, Panos. That's correct, guys. Right here. That's the idea. That won't work. I don't have any class name called is visible, but that's the idea. That's the idea. So if I'm able to add that class is visible, then I will be able to animate it because I'm saying, hey, by default, the menu is hidden on the right hand side, but when I click on it, then I'm moving it to index, to the right 0. That's the idea, but obviously that's not correct. I mean, if I refresh, what is the menu? I'll tell you where the menu is. The menu is correct. It's hidden. The menu is hidden. Let me see if I can open it. Here you go. You see menu items, but it's hidden because of right minus 100 pixels. Look, I can slowly show it. You see? Eventually it will be visible. But if it's minus 100 pixels, which is correct, I mean, by default it's correct. The problem is I want to be able to add a new class called isVisible, I believe. You see, when I add the isVisible class, then the menu is visible. But now the problem is how, instead of cheating, instead of adding the isVisible class on the web browser directly, how can I dynamically pass that class? It's not that simple. I'm afraid it's not that simple. But it's good we are dealing with the problem because it's just a matter of time you'll have a similar problem. So can I put it here? Let's see what happens if I do that. Well, no. Look, why? Because we're controlling via JavaScript. If the menu is not open, we are not even rendering the menu. Yeah, guys, I'm not telling you what the steps I'm doing are correct. Yeah, I'm just trying to follow some sort of natural thinking. So to me, I said, all right, if the menu is not visible, then it won't even be rendered. So only if it's visible, it will be rendered. In other words, if that component is rendered, that means it's visible. So can I add the class here directly? Let's have a look. It works, right? It works more or less as expected. So now, let's see if our assumption is correct or not. Can anybody tell me how can I apply a transition to animate the menu component? Yes, transition. What else? .2 milliseconds, probably 0.2 seconds. All right, yeah, I mean, let's slow it down a bit just to see if it works. Yeah? Let's do 1 second. And is in and is out. Okay, that sounds very interesting, Panos. That sounds very interesting. Please, guys, pay attention to the result. And you'll tell me if it satisfies your appetite or not. Look. Oh, sorry, it's refreshing again. Sorry, ignore me. Now, again. Is it working? the transition doesn't work. That's correct. And that's tricky. Why the transition doesn't work? The problem is, yeah, tell me, Panos. It's visible. That's correct. That's correct. Remember, guys, transitions apply on a class change. What the problem is, there is no class change. It's visible, as Panos said, it's always there. Yeah? Because of that, the transition doesn't apply. We need to add the isVisible class on demand. But because it's always there, if the menu is visible, then these two classes are available all the time. So that's not correct. Unfortunately, if you want to apply a transition, you cannot do that. You cannot do that because as soon as you change the flag from false to true, React will render the menu items, and because it will render the menu items, it will add these two classes at the same time. If both classes are applied at the same time, that means there is no class change, and if there is no class change, that means there is no transition. Yeah. So I can give you two alternatives. Can we apply an animation? Maybe we could apply an animation. Yeah, do you want guys to try that? So let's try an animation. Let's try an animation, see if it works. So what we learned yesterday was we can type animation name, you can call it show, and then animation duration 1 second, and animation fill mode, if you remember guys, was forwards to prevent the animation to be rolled back. So now I can type keyframes, and then from, we don't even need from, as we saw yesterday. So to right 0, something like that. Sorry, and then at the end the animation name, which is show. Yeah, something like that. Let's see if that makes sense or not. So if we refresh, you see, now it works, and the reason why it works is because animations can run immediately as soon as the element gets rendered, the animation runs. Yep. Yep. That's a separate question. What happened? What happened if I click again on it? Yes, disappears. Why just disappears, guys? Can anybody tell me why the entry animation, the input animation works fine, but the output doesn't work? Yes, that's correct. That's correct, but yeah. Yes. So the problem, unfortunately, is not on the CSS. The problem is, as soon as the isOpen flag is changed to false, the menu is removed from the HTML. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what magic we do on the CSS level. If you pay attention, guys, on the, let me zoom it a bit. You see, I got my menu items component. As soon as I click again, boom, the menu items component is gone. So there is nothing we can do. There is nothing we can do. We cannot create a new animation to hide it. That won't work at all. That won't work at all. That won't work at all because the element has been removed, has been deleted from the HTML. In other words, if you really want to apply a nice animation in and out, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. That doesn't make sense. You need to keep the menu always there. You need to keep the menu always there. And then, as Panos was suggesting before, we need to play with CSS classes because now the menu will be always visible. Now we need to play with CSS classes to deal with the problem. So what else do we need to do? We need to pass the isOpen property to the menu items. IsOpen equals isOpen. You can rename that if you want. And now on the menu items, we can receive it. We can use props, or you can use menu with the structuring, you can use isOpen. So now back to the transition mode, because that was much simpler. Now the only thing we need to do is to decide whether we want to add the isVisible class or not. So how do we do that? Well, look, curly braces, and now look, I can create an expression. What's the class name of menu items? So menu items will be always there, of course. But now look at how cool this is. I can add a dynamic class name. I can say if it's open, then add the isVisible class. Else, add nothing. Or if you prefer, if you don't like the ternary, you can do isOpen and isVisible. You can do that if you prefer. Yep. So that means that now the isVisible class will be only applied when the menu is open. If it's open, the isVisible class will be applied. If it's not open by default, the component won't have the isVisible class. So by default, the menu will be hidden. Once the isOpen flag becomes true, we'll be adding a second class called isVisible. By adding the isVisible class, we are moving the menu to the right, so we're making it visible. So when we click again on the menu, we are removing the isVisible class, so now the menu will become hidden again. And obviously, because we are applying a transition, all of that will happen with a nice animation. So let's see if that works. If I click on the menu, pop, you see, that's good. And now that's the tricky part. Will it be animated? Will it disappear with using a nice animation? Yes, it does. Yeah. So technically speaking, guys, now the menu is always visible. You see, menu, even when it's hidden, the menu is always visible. Yeah. The only difference is when it's not displayed, is hidden. It's there on the right hand side. So from the user point of view, it's completely hidden. But in reality, the component is still alive. It's on the right hand side of the screen. What else, guys? Questions? Yes. Yes. That's a really good point, Panos. From a performance point of view, that's not very efficient. What's the point of keeping the menu alive on the right hand side if it's not visible? Because the menu is still consuming resources of the browser, right? It's still there. It's just hidden. So you're right. Trying to find a problem about this approach will be the performance. The menu is still visible. So that's a problem. How can you deal with the problem? Well, I mean, I'm not even going to explain that because that would be a bit mind-blowing. But what you could do is you can have a second variable on the state to determine whether the menu exists or not. I mean, you can ignore what I'm going to say now, but you can create a new variable called exists and then set exists. By default, it's false. And now the problem is, I'm not even going to complete the exercise, but when you toggle it, so you can say if it doesn't exist, if it doesn't exist, then make it as it exists. But if it already existed, wait a minute, that's some sort of low-level trick to improve the performance of the app. Wait maybe 1 second, and then remove it. Yeah, so why I'm doing that? Because now I can actually bring it back. So I'm essentially leaving or allowing the animation to complete somehow. I'm giving the chance the animation to complete, and then after 1 second, I'm I'm removing it. Exactly. Let's see if it works, by the way. I didn't want it to do that, but now out of curiosity. So by default, the menu shouldn't be visible. That's correct. You see, the menu doesn't exist, which is perfect. It's perfect. If I show it, but now, now the problem is I broke it because the animation is not added. That's a bit more complicated. So now the animation is not added because the class gets added at the same time as the animation. So I will need to pass a flag, another timeout. So yeah, guys, sorry, I'm not going to do that. But I hope you get the idea. Yeah. So from a performance point of view, there is obviously a penalty on having an element hidden most of the time, of course. But hey, guys, let's be pragmatic. If you're building your portfolio, that's okay. Don't worry about that. If one day you need to build a very complex menu with graphics, charts, a lot of complex algorithms in there, then you may want to spend a couple of hours dealing with timeouts and hacking around. Yeah, so that's fine. But unless you need to do something complicated, keep it simple, guys. Keep the menu always open, and then, that's pretty much it. Yeah. But it's good in a job interview that at least you are aware that technically speaking, having the menu always open is not a good thing. So now the question is, what is more important? Is performance, or is it having a nice animation? Well, that depends on. Well, it depends. I mean, technically speaking, if I had to build something very, 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 very complicated, you know what? I mean, I would say, hey, fuck off. I don't care about the animation. If the menu will become very complicated, easy peasy, guys. Easy peasy, yeah. Exactly. So that all depends on the context, I guess. Cool, but I think that's a very interesting discussion, Panos. So anything else, guys? Oh, yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it, please. Sorry, give me a second. Give me a second because I broke it. I don't know why. So now it's not working. Let me see why. Because I'm not passing the open flag. Sorry, guys. Sorry, just let's make sure it works again, and then we'll take it from there in case we need to do any additional change. So just give me a second, please. Oh, wait a minute. Why the hell did they break it? Seriously? No, sorry. No, it's alright. Yeah, it works. Fantastic. So we can take it from there. Sorry, Adam, I think you had a question, right? Yes. Yes. That's correct. That's absolutely correct. Guys, the space here makes a huge difference. If you put a space, for instance, at the bottom, you see there's a space between menu items and item. That means the item is a child element of menu items. So these are two different items, two different elements. Yeah, item is not the same as menu items. They are different divs, nested divs. However, what Adam said is there is no point. There's no space between menu items and it's visible. That's because you want to apply the styles only when both classes are assigned to that element. So only when menu items has the isVisible class, when both classes are assigned to that particular element. Anything else, guys? Yeah. So I know that this is a bit intense. Probably building a sliding menu is slightly more complicated than you probably thought, but I think that's important, right? The majority of the web apps you're going to build for the rest of your life will have a menu, so it's important to know how to deal with it. Anything else, Minji, Dan? Fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. That was it. Happy coding. Cheers.